What you need to remember is that this is the best time to buy real estate. If you're a first-time home buyer, this is the best time for you. But don't call it an asset. This is the best time to get back into the market, and that's why you need financial education. The reason I'm in real estate is for one reason only. If you're watching us from the house you don't own, well, consider yourself lucky. This also applies to anyone ready to buy a piece of the American dream. But if you're among the millions trying to sell, it's a very bad day for you. Those two words on your American lawn now have the resonance of a prayer, a call to the God of the market. Get me out of here. Now we're hearing about a 27% drop in the number of homes sold last month compared to June. 27% is terrible news. The National Association of Realtors reported the worst drop in home sales since they started tracking them in the late 1990s. And compared to last year, sales are down by more than 25%. So, if there's a sign in your yard tonight, is there anything you can do besides hope and wait? That's not really an inspiring vision of home ownership, which is part of the American dream. But that dream requires a down payment that 25 million unemployed or underemployed Americans won't have for a long time, if ever. It's no secret that the housing bubble in California burst, causing widespread hardship. Real estate expert Robert Kiyosaki predicted all of this would happen back in 2005, but most people didn't listen. This is the biggest financial bubble in the history of the world. I've had the advantage of traveling all over the world. All markets go up, all markets go down. But right now, it's really going down. It could stay low for a long time, simply because it will just take a larger down payment, more money up front, because nobody trusts anyone anymore. Got it. Kenny, you own a lot of real estate. Is your house an asset? No, not my personal residence. It doesn't produce any income. I pay the bank every month. It's the bank's asset. But everyone tells me my house has increased in value. But that's capital gains, not cash flow. And that's what people are discovering now in real estate. The market has crashed and it's happening all over the world. Their home values have disappeared. Now that people lack money, they're realizing it's a liability since they still owe the bank for the mortgage. Let's say they bought a house for $200,000. They still owe $180,000, but the house is now only worth $100,000. And now they find out that their house is not an asset, it's a liability. Your house is not an asset. So in today's world, if you want to be rich, you need to know that there's a difference between an asset and a liability. One of the reasons so many people are financially struggling today is simply because they confuse the two. Things such as your house are not assets. Your car is not an asset. When I was a young boy, my rich dad taught me that you have to understand a financial statement. This is an income statement. That's a balance sheet. Well, it's really simplified. What makes something an asset is simply that it's an asset. The money goes into your pocket, and a liability takes money out of your pocket. So for most people, their houses are not assets or liabilities, because every month it takes money to live in that house. Even those who say they've paid off their house and have no debt. Listen, you still have insurance, you still have maintenance, upkeep. Is a house an asset? No, but the bank considers it one. They tell you it's an asset, and financial planners will say it's an asset. But the reality is, it's not an asset if it doesn't put money in your pocket. And a house only takes money out of your pocket. And when people nitpick, they say, if you own a house, well, you have an interest deduction. Yes, but that's money coming out of your pocket. And the best you can get is 40 cents on the dollar. So you give $1 and you get 40 cents back. There's still 60 cents left. It's not a hard calculation. In my world, I see people chasing after shiny objects. That's what most people do. Most people chase after shiny objects. That's it. They want to make money. They're not building an asset here. That's the biggest risk.
This is the highest risk. Now,
Now, what I know is that the bigger the risk, the more education you need. For example, when I had to learn how to fly, just to pilot my little Cessna 172 around a small area, there wasn't much risk. But when I had to go to Vietnam to fly, the risk increased. I had to study harder, become better, work harder. Your house is a shelter. It's a place to raise a family. But it's not an asset that will ever make you money. You could make money in an upward trending market, but today the market is trending downward. So I'm not saying don't buy a house. I'm just saying don't be financially ignorant and don't call your house an asset if it takes money out of your pocket. Kim and I own two houses. One in Arizona and the other, a beautiful beach house in Hawaii. Those are our biggest liabilities. People thought, especially during the boom times when the markets were high, they thought their house was an asset. Even after paying off their loan, people would borrow against their house to invest in the stock market or elsewhere. So not only did they have crazy mortgages, but they were taking money out against their house. And they were doing it for things like vacations, boats, cars, and other things like that. And the reality is, the reason they were doing that is because they could deduct the interest on their taxes. And so they thought, well, it was good because I had a deduction. Having a deduction doesn't mean it's a good idea. One of the biggest mistakes people make is over-improving their home. They put in a $50,000 pool and it only adds $20,000 in value. Well, the way I see it, you just bought yourself a $30,000 babysitter. 50% of mortgages in Reno are underwater. That means the mortgage is higher than the value of the property. And that affects the whole community because people aren't able to sell their homes and move to a place where they can get a better job. Neighbors aren't going to sell their homes because the values are so low. So it affects entire communities. And again, we've heard people say that your home is an asset. We're talking about financial education here. And that's one of the biggest financial lessons our country had to learn the hard way. That your home is not a safe bet. It's happened before. And what's going to happen again is that new laws will also come. And new loans will be lost again in a few years. Prices will rise and people will do it again. You see the beauty of real estate. It's that you learn to use debt to become rich. I'll give you another piece of advice. If you want to be rich, you have to learn how to use debt. It's called other people's money. So when I hear poor people say, I don't have any money, I just say, it's just because you're an idiot. That's why you shouldn't use your own money, but other people's money instead.
It's other people's money.
But it's other people's money. I don't want to do that. And so he remains poor.
The point.
What you need to remember is that this is the best time to buy real estate. If you're a first-time home buyer, this is the best time for you. But don't call it an asset. This is the best time to get back into the market. And that's why you need financial education. The reason I'm in real estate is for one reason only. It's debt. It's one of the easiest assets to borrow against. But if you want to use debt, you have to be very financially smart. Otherwise, if you're not smart, just keep considering your house as an asset.